What was the initial brief for Starship?
Well, when Neil first approached me with Starship, he told me that's an angry movie. And that was actually like probably that word right there just almost said it all. Angry. It's an angry movie, and he told me I want a really dark score. It's like the darker you can get with it, the happier I will be. And so, well, I had to put my head around it, because even though this is totally the kind of music, the kind of projects that, got me to become a film composer to start with, that was probably... Starship is the first time where I can really put my hands in that on a project where, yeah, that's it, go full scale with it. It's pretty much how it is. Like, you make it dark and you just like go with it. And so yeah, it took some research. It took also a lot of thinking.
So how did you find the darkness for the main theme?
It's strange to explain, but the first instrument that came in my mind was piano. And it's weird because you'd think that wouldn't be the first thing, but yeah, for some reason I first envisioned something very simple with piano, and then that's where that big first hit of brass came in my mind. And then a sort of clock rhythm where all the string section does that, and it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it grows into the moment where the next big picture I had in mind still was the sequence that Neil showed me where John Worthy is being punished right away as he just got engaged into the Federation. He is being attached to the hull for the first taking off of the ship as a punishment, and we'll see if he survives. And that was also a very strong picture, because first of all, it's so unusual, it's so original. I was like, wow, that's such a beginning. And I had that picture. He had shown me those shots, so I remembered how we see the guy attached to the hole, and it just like goes in the air. And I was like, that's it. That's gonna be the theme where the melody just like keeps going up and up and up and up and up, and to the point where it actually reaches the full range of the French horns that start really low. And as they reach space, it finally ends on the very last note that a French horn can play. So that's pretty much, yeah, what I had in mind. And funnily enough, when finally Neil gave me the cut, there was very little to change, except it was longer than what I envisioned when I first made the film. So all I had to do is to reorganize it. But there are sections of it that were almost like I actually had scored it to the pictures. It was already there. There was just a few details to tweak here and there, but overall, it's almost like the timings were perfect. And that's, I always get a kick out of that. That's the proof that it's gonna be smooth for the whole film right there.
How did the composing play out for you? Did Neil guide you at all?
In this case, what I really appreciate about our relationships, like right away he told me that, he was trusting my judgment on it. And usually the way it goes in a case like this, we started pretty much in a standard way where he loved the theme. Like, he got back to when I first sent him the theme, he was like, oh my god, yep, that dead on, that's gonna work. Which made me really happy. So Neil loved the theme, and from there, like, since he had basically like at this point signed up on the theme, like for me, like as a film composer, usually if the director is really on to the main theme, then it's really just a matter of developing that and making sure we always stay in that. As long as we stay in that should be fine. What happens is usually we score the first 10 minutes and see if we're still on the same page. Like, you heard the theme, you like it, but this is how it develops, you still like it as much. And yes, it was the case. And so from there, it was a very, very smooth process, because it seemed that, I feel fortunate enough in this project that I think I captured Neil's vision of what he was expecting the score to do for that film.
What was the biggest problem area for you? Was there anything that was difficult for you at all?
It's packed with action, and there is a lot going on. There's a lot of plots going on in Starship, but particularly as we start to reach the second half of the film, the challenge sometimes for me was how to make the music follow the action, even though we are in one scene, there's a huge battle, but then we come back and there's another group of people that are doing their own thing as part of the main plot, and how to make the music to switch with that without somehow spoiling what's going on. And that, so sometimes I actually had to redraft a few things, like I just like remove. What's funny is that something that also Neil and I were on the same page is that sometimes less is better, and so I always kept that in mind. And sometimes it would just be about removing instruments.
Because there's so many battles in Starship, was it hard to find different composing strategies for each scene?
Battle music is actually very intense. It's very intense to make. You are exposed for like 13 hours a day to and big percussions and big things in your face. And so I actually found myself exhausted at some point. And I had just came up with at least 3 big battle music that turned out, like really how I envisioned it. I was very happy with them. And there is that after that we start to get to see even more of the battles going on Terra Nostra. And I remember it's like for 2-3 days I was just like, I don't know what to do. I've already done that, And so this time I did it. I actually decided to leave it alone and go score the end of the film, because Neil had just finally given me the last piece of the film, because a lot of it was happening as, this is how it works. It's like basically we were progressing as I was scoring. Neil was a little ahead of me in terms of editing, and so was sending me some part of the film. I had most of the film. I was still missing the very end, and he had sent me the very end, and that allowed me for a break, because as I was discovering the rest of the film, funnily enough, I was exhausted for big battle music, but here was the end of the film, which turned out, personally, I think it's my best track of the whole. This one I prefer.
So what was the inspiration for The Overseer? I
had the inspiration right away. It's like I saw it, I knew exactly what to do, and I was like, I guess I'm just gonna take a break. Since we're on a deadline, I still need to come up with music, so let's do that. I scored the end, and funnily enough, scoring the end gave me that relief that I needed. And then I went back and I basically I gave everything I had in those last cues of battles. The whole process was pretty awesome at this point, because I was able to finish it and basically link the end with what was going on, and that just I think it worked fine. I was very happy with it.
So did Neil let you do your own thing, or were you able to breathe throughout the film?
The thing that I really enjoyed working with Neil as a filmmaker is that indeed he did leave spots, a lot of spots for the music to breathe, which is really rare nowadays in action movies. And I've actually had the opportunity to meet with composers such as John Ottman, who complains about that nowadays they just don't let the music breathe anymore. And it's a style, maybe people like it or not, but it sounds like most of the time it could be helped. And a Starship works very well, and it's very smooth in that way, that even though it's a grand angry sci-fi movie with lots of battles, very dark plots, and a very fast cut action packed movie, it still has the time. He's got those grand shots. That's some of the shots for the kissing scene, for example, is right there, I could let my imagination just go with it. It has that beautiful dawn shot there. I don't know how he came up with it. It's so beautiful. And so that was very inspiring. And then those planets shots also, where it's that's all I've always wanted to score. It's like a giant, you're on the big screen, and you just see that big panoramic of a planet with space, and then the ships flying by, and it's short. Truth is, some of them are not as long, but they're just enough so that the music can just take the spots that it needs, and then just go back and keep complementing the pictures. And so that's something that I really enjoyed working with Neil in that regard, is that he definitely it's nice to see, Neil as a filmmaker has such a great understanding of, the relationship between the pictures and music. And right there, I always had a little smile because I'm like, I know here, that's my spot here. I know it was left for me.
Now tell me, what was the inspiration for the Overseer?
The Overseer theme, before that's another thing that I had in mind from conversations we had even before we started laying down any notes on Starship, is that Neil had already told me that he had shot the sequel for Starship. The Overseer, basically the second film, really the Overseer, that's gonna be his moment. And so Neil pointed out to me that, really whatever theme the Overseer has is really gonna be, thematically the theme of the second film. That's a giant clue as far as what am I gonna have to come up with for that particular character, because whatever I come up with is gonna be like a giant influence on whatever's coming up on the next feature.
How did you approach it?
The way I approached it is as a theme of a full story, not just a theme of a character, not just a leitmotif for him, but really a grand theme that covers not only him but part of the story. Funnily enough, the way it worked, I actually was able to come up with the theme just like a spectator watching the film. As you get to discover him, I had the first bits of inspiration for the notes that goes with him, but it's really how we get to progress that the pictures told me really how is that film really gonna be complete. And of course, the big moment was Neil had told me right away, is like when he takes off from Terminus to go on his journey, is like right here, and we want to hear his theme. And so I had enough scenes of him to have like the basic of it so that I can make it like basically go full scale for that very moment. And as we also worked on the introduction, basically the very final notes, the very final texture of the film took place when finally I was exposed to the history we get to see of the Overseer, which I thought was really cool. I mean, it's like right there, the theme I had come up with, and seeing more of the background of the story, like the whole thing made sense. And all of a sudden, really, like my goal here was just like, this needs to be so dark, I really don't know what I'm gonna use. Like Neil actually gave me a phone call as I was working on it, wondering how I was doing, and I'm telling him, well, that's funny, you're just calling me, I was just asking my wife, what instrument could I use that is really dark and dirty? That's so funny. And so Neil calls, and I just tell him that, oh yeah, I was just wondering about that. And so we had a little conversation about that, and then I went back to it, and funnily enough, that turned out to be like a one night. I worked all night on it. For a long time I hadn't gone to bed at 5 a.m, but that's the other thing, is I think like I needed to be in the silence of the night. Like I needed to be in that you feel alone, you feel everything's different at night, and I hadn't done that in a while, and that I think helped a lot to just like work at night, no disturbance, nothing, and just being like basically freaking myself out in front of that one sequence of the Overseer and coming up with something as dark as I could. It was a challenge too, because it was like, how dark can I go? Like, am I going to fail myself here? Like, is it gonna be as dark as I want it to be? So unfortunately, only time will tell us. I mean, Neil really liked it. He told me right away the next day when I sent it to him, like, wow, that's really dark. And I've re-listened to it many times. Like usually I like to re-listen to the music I've made at least like a week later, because all of a sudden I get more like a refresh here, and sure enough, that's, to this day at least, that's the darkest theme I came up with.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to?
Well, I look forward for Starship 2. I mean, I'm so ready. It's like scoring Starship 1 and knowing the direction that Starship 2 is taking. I'm basically already I'm already preparing for war. Pretty much, it's pretty much what it is. It's like I'm gearing up to just like come up with like I'm already thinking, okay, how I develop all that, how I'm gonna make it even more awesome in the second one. I'm looking forward to that.
You said you wanted to work with me. I didn't think that would happen, but it did, and I was like, wow, these things really do happen. You said you were writing a part with me in mind. I was like, okay, sure, 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 and it actually happened. Gustav goes, oh, it's kind of close. And then I came in. I auditioned out of the studio out in where were we? We were at Canoga Park, and it was really, kind of great. I mean, I felt really at home and ready to go, and I saw some of the set, and I really felt excited, and brought some people.
Was there anything that you would like to change on set, or anything embarrassing or bad that happened?
No, I think no. I mean, I think I did the best I could at that time. I think I realized that I kind of been walking a lot and gotten in better shape. I had to lose a little bit. You realize, it's just rigorous fighting and doing and I had a couple other movies where I did fight scenes after that, and I realized I really got to kind of, stay in very good middle-aged shape because I'm being called to do these things and have love interests like Christine Mosley, Christina and Raja. You kind of have your shit together. As far as difference, no, I think I don't think so. I think I would know my way more around a sci-fi set now, though. I think there would be a different kind of take on it and maybe a different confidence. It was kind of moving with it. Well, it all works for the camera, though. If you're open to it, your vulnerabilities can be just as powerful as you knowing what you're doing. So I don't really think anything's necessarily bad. I think it's kind of all the way it should be. When you got a good director, he'll tell you when it's off and when it's not there. I just think I would be ready for the green screen differently than this time around because you just need the experience of doing it, And it wasn't hard. But that's where, going back to the actor studio, you use whatever you need, whether it's an image or a this or a that. Technique is there for when your instincts aren't working. When your instincts are working, just get out of the way and let it happen. But sometimes people can get overly techniqued and miss that, hey, this person's giving me everything I need right now.
So your training helped a lot with the green screen and being able to...
Yeah, your training helps. Yeah, I mean, I kind of relied more on Neil. Really, the imagination was a little bit better and just relaxing. You got to relax your body enough to just let it happen. And you get used to more and more, not doing a lot, doing something. I mean, Shakespeare helps in sci-fi movies because you got to use your voice sometimes, and it's rigorous depending on the scene. If they're big kind of battle scenes and stuff like that. So going back to doing some Shakespeare and stuff and just being warmed up and ready to go. But I had met Robert Duvall once at a SAG screening. Got to really talk to him for a long period of time. He's one of my favorite actors. And the one thing I noticed about him was that he really, really, really listened. He was so genuinely interested in what you had to say and curious and kind of loves gossip. He's a very funny guy in a weird way. And I really took that from him. I thought, it was an acting lesson just now. I spoke to him for God, it must have been 15 minutes about everything because he's also a member of the Actors Studio and, and also Meisner trained, work with Sandy Meisner and all this other stuff. But he was like, what's going on over there? Yeah, you know how he is. He's kind of like laughing and doing his thing. And but he really listens. I thought that was really fabulous. And he's like, yeah, it's got to be 79 when I met him or something. And, his eyes are just blazing. And I thought, wow, what a way to go through life. It's like he's so full of life, And I think that's what makes him, so great on screen at times. He's so there. And I think that's something you can always go back to as an actor. I would say if there's any foundation for me, it's that. Get back with the partner, when you can. Or the experience of the green screen, like in the sense of your partner's now the green screen or you're what you're doing, But that's...
Tell me a bit about your character. And how did you get into the mode to be able to... I don't know what I'm saying here. But yeah, how did you get into the mood just to be able to... It's such a powerful character. How'd you...
Well, first you're like the general, then you've got to, you have to kind of get over your own fears of well, can I be a general, maybe I'm a captain, am I really a general, all the insecurities actors go through. I think the little bit of everything. It just adds up over time, you know. I think looking at the piece, like I said, being on set and having to kind of push myself a little bit the first few days was really helpful. You know, having to get the commands going, get the strength going, and just let go of, like I said, any worries about being good, bad, or indifferent. Just command those ships and get it done. I think that was, you know, Neil's direction, and it was very good for me because you just have to let go, you know, and you have to let go on the set after a while. You can't worry about what you planned. You are the character, you know, you're doing the best you can, and you'll find your way. I think the costuming was great. I think, you know, there was some nice costuming. I think the lighting, the ship helped, you know, the practicals helped. Christina was there the first day. She was encouraging and terrific, and kind of the warrior, you know, goddess behind me, and so there was a lot of good stuff going on right away. I think Mark Zickery was there, you know, quickly, who I adore and like so much, and wouldn't have had this film had I not read for him and met Neil. And he's also been a real champion and a friend and a mentor as well. I've taken his mentor class. But I think you get in little by little. You look at the language, you look at the dialogue. We were doing 2 movies at once, so it was complicated. You trust the director in that part, you know, Neil's experience, so you relax and let go. But you, little by little, try to kind of ground yourself and find out, how much do I need? How much do I not need? And you start to, little by little, kind of find your way. And I think just by doing the actions, and even if when you feel it or when you don't, you start to little by little kind of just jump in and get over that threshold. And before you know it, you start to feel the energy of battle, which, you know, you can get in, like, just like you, if you were, you know, you were an Israeli army officer, you know, you'd be that person, you know.
So you learned quite a lot on set of Starship.
I did learn a lot. Sorry?
In a sense, you learned quite a lot.
I learned a lot. It was a really great experience for me. I mean, it was great to have, you know, the kind of anti-hero, good, you know, bad guy turned good guy was a great turn for me, and it was great, you know. And I think also the dialogue was well written. I related to the political content within it, of freedom, stuff like that, loyalty, honor, strength. Those are all things that I think are important to me. I'm very loyal to my male friends in a way. Not that I'm not loyal to my female counterparts as well, or loved ones or lovers or girlfriends, but, you know, not that I have so many. Let's backtrack that. I wish.
You did say plural.
I did say plural, yes. Anyway, so, you know, it had a lot of what I was saying before, like, you know, your loyalties in the world, you know, your male bonding in a way. And then also it was right up my alley with Raja's character and being undermined, and the love interest and the confusion, which is things I really like to play.
It was a much bigger part, more than 1 or 2 lines, and it was just fast-paced and really fun. And I'd never worked with a green screen before, or with robots.
Was it hard, do you think?
No, it really wasn't. I think everything was all set up. Neil really set up the whole atmosphere. It was perfectly easy to imagine, and it was just fun. You know, we just went with it. You know, there wasn't really much time to stop and think and make it too difficult. We just kind of went with it, and it was awesome.
Do you find like working on green screen is similar to theatre? Are there any similarities?
Sure. I mean, I think when you're working with a green screen, you are pretending that something is there, and when you're on stage and there's a huge audience, I think you kind of, although you play to that sometimes, you kind of pretend that they're not there. You know, you have to block out a lot. So it's kind of similar in that it's opposite in that respect, I think. I just made that up.
No, I don't think that's fair. Now, there was a lot of let's just talk about the vibe on set. You know, because there was a lot of jokes being made, and you seem to be instigating a lot of the jokes.
Yeah. I heard you were really quite the comedian on set too.
I made
talk from everyone else.
Well, I made one joke that I incorporated into every single sentence I spoke.
What was the joke?
Well, it was one word. It was space. Everything was space, like this space interview. And Neil, I became known as Captain Space Hair, and everything was having a spacey day, or space lasagna for lunch. Yeah. So everything was space because we were in space. You know, I was trying to help Neil develop the atmosphere. I was trying to help make it so easy for everybody to feel as if they were fighting the Federation in space, as if we were on a starship in space and not in the not on a set. I was trying to help.
Is that one of your techniques?
It will be.
Acting.
Yeah, from here on out. It seemed to work out really, really well.
Anything embarrassing happened on set? Just give me something. To yourself or to anyone else that you thought was quite hilarious?
Let me see. Didn't Darren fall or something, or a set piece fell on him or something? No, not really that I recall.
Knock his tooth out?
I think he did, but I wasn't there. It was a fight scene, right? And he got hit by a girl, too. Not that there's anything wrong with being hit by a girl. You know what I'm saying. I think he did get a tooth knocked out.
What about with you? Anything?
I don't think so.
You were just watching everyone else break the set, weren't you?
Yeah.
Tell us about what they were doing.
I'm sorry, I don't recall any specifics. I do recall one of the actresses was working on. She was steering something. And I think she busted the steering mechanism, which was like a joysticky kind of thingy, and I think they had to kind of fix it for a second, and then she went back into it and was just so into it that it kind of broke again, but
What was it like working with Darren?
Just it was a lot of hard work. You have to pick up the slack with Darren. You know, Darren is he's a great guy and he knows his lines and all, but it's like I don't know. It was great. I love Darren. He's a friend. He was a friend before the film. Hopefully he'll be a friend after. We had a lot of fun. It was hard sometimes not to not laugh with Darren, you know, because we know each other relatively well. It was, you know, some of the lines were, you know, very space oriented and we are Earthlings. So it was kind of silly to say some of the things and think about us outside of the situation, inside of the situation.
And he was responsible for you getting casted.
He was, yeah.
Tell us the story of the casting.
Darren was involved in the film and he said, "Oh, I'm doing this film and you'll be great for this part. Drayson, you'll be great." And I said, "Okay, great." But I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I can't focus and I'm off doing something else. And he went away. We had another friend who was coming in too to audition for a part. She was in the film as well. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know, should I really audition? Thinking to myself, doing this whole little show in my head. And finally he's like, "Did you send your stuff? Send your stuff already." So I said, "Oh, finally." And I did. But it was late. Like Neil was already like past the point of, you know, interviews. And he was like, "You're a friend of Darren's. I'll squeeze you in." So I came in. He's like, "Hey, I recognize you. You were in the office." And did the interview. And he was like, "Great." And then I got the email that I got the part.
What did you do? Did you have a little party?
I did. I had a little party at my computer.
Party in the pants.
Hey, this is weird.
No, I'm kidding. What's the relationship like with you and Darren? Like, explain that to me. How'd you guys meet, and are you guys really close?
Yeah. We're close. We work together, and we've hung out. You know, he's one person at work that I really kind of took to, and we would hang out outside of work a little bit. He's been over the house. And he's just a good friend, you know. I've read he's an author as well, and so he would send me the stuff that he writes. So I read his book, loved his book. You should read his book if you haven't read his book, Animal Empire. It's great. So we joke around, we kind of make fun of each other, but it's all done with love, brotherly love. And we also have mutual respect for each other, you know. I think he's a talented guy. He's a really talented actor. I thought he did a great job in the film. He's, from what I saw of all my part of the film and what I've seen, what he's done, he's like the glue, really, you know. You follow him for at least a long while. And I think he just did a really great job. Stand up.
Let's talk about your character a bit. Character Drayson, you know, just somebody who's not seen the movie, you know, obviously talking about his hidden base and his technology and being the engineer, but he's a civilian and everything else. What can you tell me about his character?
I think Drayson is, if if Scotty and Han Solo had a very, very handsome, very charming, very talented baby, that would be Drayson. That's what I think. He's a technological wizard. He's almost a god, if you will, creating these robots and working in the whole cloning field there. There would be no Starship were it not for Drayson. Am I right? See? Yeah. And he's just kick-ass. The way he fires a gun, you want Drayson on your team.
What's his personality like? Does he evolve as a character throughout the movie, Drayson?
Yeah, I think he's kind of cynical a little bit in a way. You know, he's kind of secretive and cynical, but then he kind of, not necessarily cynical, of course, against the Federation and all, but I think he's guarded, you know, and he lets Worthy in. I know that they've always been friends, but I think through the course of the film, they get a little bit closer, and he sees they have more of kind of like a brotherhood, I guess, if you will.
And there was that scene we shot. You know, we did a reshoot at
Mm-hmm.
the end where you and Worthy had a great moment together. I mean, I love the scene. It was one of those golden moments, at least for me. Originally, you died at the end of the first film.
Yeah.
You died, but can you tell me the story of how it evolved that you might be alive?
I don't know if I can understand it myself.
Well, he had secrets, and he was hinting that something.
Yeah.
wasn't really dead.
So, Drayson had, created the Starship. He's worked on, what is the robot's name? Rortak. Yeah, so Drayson has been working with robots. He created Rortak, the very humanoid, robotic being. In the first film, Drayson is killed. It's the end of Drayson. He's got this big piece of Starship in his heart. But he's got all these secrets. He's been working on, the cloning, and bionics, if you will, I guess. You take the bio and the mechanic, and you put those together, and maybe Drayson comes back to life, with a little bit of help of his amazing technological knowledge. Yeah, did that explain that? Yeah?
Yeah, there's a hint that he might be alive. Well, he's in the second movie somehow.
He's in the second movie. Could it be a flashback? Could he be a clone? Could it be the second coming of Drayson?
What was it?
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
You go.
Yeah, you go. Okay, I'm gonna lead him off track though. Is that alright?
So was I.
Okay, sweet. So, anything bad happened on set? Or is there anything that you would have liked to change and just forget Dad's here right now? You can say freely whatever you like. Give me some dirt, please.
Really?
Yeah, give me some dirt.
Because we control the media, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There really wasn't all. There was, like, my first day on set was kind of funny because there was this one guy who he was interesting. He was in outer space already, it seemed. Nice enough guy, but just like he just, all his marbles weren't, I don't know, he was interesting. And he kept talking about drugs and stuff, and we were like, all right, so you like this topic. Anyway, he had this scene where he had to do this, like, oh, we're being attacked, and I don't mean to be, whatever, we're talking dirt, but he was just very, he had to fall and die, and he was just very, it was comical. I like the puppets, and it just looked very kind of puppety, and him falling down. We kept doing it over and over again, and Neil was very, very patient and not condescending at all. He was totally cool and supportive, and even when he left, Neil was just like, all right, what's next? Everyone else was like, what the fuck was that? But Neil was very professional. Yeah. Well, he talked all about this drug flashback, and it was very like, oh, dude, I had this dream last night, right? And there was like this bunny, and he was carrying a bread knife, and he was coming after me. But then I had these pigtails, and then all of a sudden, everything turned into like this hue of like orange and green, and then, so what am I saying? And what's my line? It was just really strange, and that wasn't necessarily what his dream was, but it was kind of like that. And he would come back and tell us all about the details of his weird little dream, and the rabbit with the butter knife or whatever it was. Really, really weird.
Mm.
Emmy, yeah, she was awesome. She kind of kept to herself at first, you know, and then yeah, and then she started, you know, I guess she was just working on you know, her character, and she just was, she's striking to look at, and a beautiful lady, and quiet, and just interesting and serene, and here yeah, pristine, and I'm all like, hey, space, woohoo, hey, hey, hey. And then she started to join in, you know, but quietly, so it was really kind of cool and subversive little, you know, talking about space farts or whatever, and it was awesome that she just played along. She was really fun and cool, but yet doing, you know, chill and quiet, and Emmy.
Do you have any other titles?
Bitch.
Bitch, actress.
High maintenance, diva, pain in the ass, drama queen, scream queen, shall I go on? Sci-fi goddess.
High maintenance diva is what I prefer.
What, is that what you're putting on the title? Okay.
I like it.
Starship was my first like spaceship type of film. So it was an unbelievable learning experience. It was an unbelievable artistic experience for me. I always like to be challenged as an actress. And after doing a ton of mobster movies and horror films and comedy and Ms. Vampy, you know, this was like this incredible new opportunity. I was like a little kid, you know, in a candy store. And we were talking about this the other night at an event, and I was saying how both Neil, my director, and EJ, who I worked with, had to sort of teach me not just how to act in this new sort of sci-fi Shakespearean type of language and energy, and understanding this new way of genre, and also learning, because I played Staris, who flies the Starship, and to have to learn the technicals around this it was like I felt like a little kid again. Like it was something totally new, totally exciting, totally scary. I was scared to death. I sat, you know, on the spaceship, on the Starship, and I was like I felt like I was playing like a video game, you know, and I couldn't quite grasp initially the first couple of days how to work the technicals, you know, and where your eye line goes when you're on the spaceship, and what's going on, and what your choices are, and you're looking at planets, and it was crazy for me, but it was exciting, and I had so much fun, and I felt like I really broke into something that I love, and something new and exciting, and I can't wait, and I hope I have the opportunity to do more, whether it's Starship sequels or something else that Neil stars me in. Anyone who knows me well knows that I'm a little tiny person. I'm a little person, and with a big booty, but I requested that, you know, and I'm always, it's so funny too, because I feel like I'm always working with very tall actors. It's just like, it's like almost like a joke, an industry joke. Every male actor I act opposite is like 6 feet to like 6'5". So I'm always used to now wearing super high heels, whether they be boots. Obviously I wasn't wearing like spiked, you know, stilettos on Starship. But I did go to Neil and I said, wait a minute, if I'm seated a lot of the time, can I be wearing boots with big 5-inch, you know, platform heels? And he said, do whatever you want. He said, whatever makes you feel secure and good and happy and like Stars the character. And, you know, it's kind of something that, you know, obviously Brooke in real life is big on the heels and being taller. But all of my characters, I sort of make it work and make sense out of it and find a reason that, you know, they wear them as well. I think one of my heels did. Thank you. I think at one point we were always really careful on set on the Starship, on the spaceship, to watch where we were walking, because there were holes in the whatever was covering the floor of the ship. So a couple of times my big heels on my boots did fall through. And I think the most embarrassing thing was the first, probably, and you'll probably see it in the film and on the cut, where I'd be willing to bet that from the first couple of days, maneuvering the technicals again probably look less authentic than down the road, than like days later and Starship Coming Darkness and stuff like that, because I finally got the groove. But I think initially it was pretty embarrassing. Like I was really self-conscious of what I was doing, you know, with all of the technical stuff and maneuvering. And so I think That was probably pretty embarrassing, and there's other stuff that I won't discuss on camera.
What was it like working with the crew and the other actors? Was it a good environment to work in?
For the most part, it was an incredible experience as far as the actors. You know, I've been blessed to do a lot of indie film, and some of them are bigger budgets, some are smaller budgets. Sometimes the budgets seem to make a difference as far as the crew and the pacing of how quickly you're shooting, and, you know, even cast members and attitude. And I can honestly say that this was a group of artists, which was so amazing, and I was so grateful to have experienced that, because it had been a while, quite honestly, since I had been in an environment like that, where everybody's very supportive and no egos, no divas for the most part. Like, I've done films way bigger paying and bigger budget, you know, big films with very well-known actors and male actors, in fact, who were like the biggest divas and queens like around. So this, I can honestly say, everybody really wanted to be there. Everybody was there on time. Everybody was prepared. Everybody was ready to rock. And I think that that's a testament, honestly, to Neil Johnson and the crew, because it sort of, and I know from producing in the past, it all trickles down from the top down. And when you go into a project with artistic integrity, the rest seems to follow. 100%. First and foremost, when Neil Johnson first came to me with the script, and, you know, I had seen his past films and knew, and had gone to the premieres and stuff, and knew how well he wrote female roles and how strong and how powerful. And that's something as an actress that attracts me both to a script project and to a role completely. And when I read, it's funny because when we first had lunch and Neil said to me, you know, read the script, I have a character in mind for you. And he actually said to me, I feel that Stars is the best chosen character for you, but you have options. So read it and see what speaks to you and what resonates with you. And Stars absolutely did. Raja played the lead empress, and first of all, let me just say she is a phenomenal actress and a lovely energy and spirit, and I enjoyed working with her thoroughly. And the scenes that she and I did together, there was so much girl power and so much female energy going on, and it was really incredible. So that was amazing. I loved all of the female roles in both Starship Rising and Starship The Coming Darkness. They are strong. I don't think that Neil wrote one weak. Emmy's character was incredible. I don't think that Neil wrote one weak female role, and that's something that truly attracts me to a piece. And I love that the women are the empresses and are running the show and are becoming, and I don't want to give away too much of the film, but from when we go from Starship Rising to Starship The Coming Darkness, Staris grows, and that's something I love so much about my character, is that's one of the reasons I chose her. She has so many different layers and arcs. I think she and Emmy's roles are the most changing and the most evolving and the most there's probably the most arcs and growth in them and sides to them, and I love that. But at no point in time, and what I loved was, as an actress and as Stars the character, I could show vulnerability and emotion and cry and get angry and all of these layers, and yet I hope it doesn't come across that way in my choices I made as an actress. I don't think at any point in time she's ever truly weak. Even, and I don't want to give away too much because I know what goes on in the films, but, you know, even when she falls, we'll say, as a character, she picks herself back up and comes right back and is stronger than ever. And I love that. And so, yes, I am all about strength in women, being a woman who has had to fight. I hate to say that or think that, but it's the truth. I've had to fight, not in a negative way, but to be where I am today in this business and in Hollywood and have a continuous career as a woman of a certain age. And I am inspired even in horror. You know, I've never been killed. I've not done nudity, and not that I judge that because I really don't. But I'm just real careful and clear on the choices I make because I want to be empowered. I want to empower other women. I want to empower young women. And so I know I've given a very long answer, but there you have it. Yes, I love it. I love that these films really show the strength in women. I mean, you know, it's such a different world that I'm ashamed to say I don't know enough about. I have friends who are Iranian and Persian and have shared stories with me about how oppressed women are over there, and it's a little bit shocking to me. I think, again, with me growing up in a big city in Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and then moving to Hollywood, I've always been in big liberal cities and I'm so liberated and so liberal and such an independent woman who's been on her own and single and forever. And so it's hard for me to really process what goes on in other countries. So it breaks my heart when I watch documentaries, when I see what goes on with women in India and women in Iran and Turkey. And it's surreal to me. It really is, because I can't for the life of me imagine me ever living in an environment like that, But one thing I will say, to turn it into a positive, that I have really been sort of intrigued by and fascinated with and inspired by as far as overseas, more so in Europe, I would think, which you guys could really, share more about it with me, is how women are revered as they get older. I love, you watch movies like Under the Tuscan Sun and just all these movies in France and Italy and even in London, even in England, I feel that women are not judged fully on their age, on their external beauty, on being a stick figure, I find it so amazing. I read articles and I see pictures about, women dating younger men and the whole cougar thing that started in Europe. And it's just, I think that women are more respected in a lot of ways overseas. So on a positive note, that turns me on.
Casting process for Starship was really cool because we, having met Neil through friends of friends, before his production actually commenced, we came on board, and I was initially trying to introduce him to a singing artist that I work with, and as you guys would know, as Jolie, and it went really well. When we came on board, we weren't really expecting anything, and we went through the audition process as anybody would, and that went fantastically. So we sort of became a little part of the family, and it was fun. The character of Rortak and his dynamics were really difficult because and I hate to say it, but a lot of it was winging it just to see if there was anything that I was doing that came off badly, which I would expect, as any actor does, they expect their director to kind of call them out on it and say, okay, I'm sorry, that didn't work. That looks terrible. But in my case, it was one of those things where obviously we all imitate certain things that we've seen. We take little bits of things here and there, whether you're a singer or a musician or an actor. There's always people that you look up to that go, wow, that person's really good at what they do. And for me, I was trying not to imitate Data too much from Star Trek or one of these other actors. And in fact, my understanding was that Rortak originally was supposed to be a lot more human, a little more like, maybe a good example would be Ash from the first Alien, or David from Prometheus. Something a little less artificial. But the only thing that kind of bothered me about that was, like, for one, sometimes the line is blurred, whether that is an artificial person or it's or if it's a human. And for me, I kind of wanted to explore, how artificial could we make this look without it being campy? So some attempts were made to decide, wow, I wonder if maybe we could do some physical modifications to make it less human-esque. But it's important always to be mindful of where that line is between hokey and interesting. And it really came down to watching a performance on camera and just going, does that work? And we have no idea until we do it. And for me, I'm not sure why, but the cadence of a lot of the dialogue was a little bit borrowed at times, I think, from Teal'c from Stargate SG-1. And it's strange because I always thought of him as a little bit reserved. He's not as expressive as most humans. So I thought, well, that's an interesting way to reserve your reactions, but at the same time, you have to think, if you're an artificial individual, what parts of you are artificial, what parts of you are natural. And it's an interesting line to toe.
What can you tell me?
In terms of my own interpretation of Rortak, when he begins his journey, we're very keenly aware that he has limitations. But based on dialogue you hear from Drayson and other characters talking about him being untethered, which is really a fascinating term in my opinion, because you always wonder, what does that mean? And what are his limitations? And understanding that he can continue to grow and expand, and that's a little scary because we all think of the Skynet or any of these fantastic stories of sci-fi that have come before that are that explore, what happens when artificial intelligence becomes more than the sum of its parts. What happens when it supersedes what mankind can do? And for me, it was kind of, it's sort of one of those things where you go, well, does that mean that my mannerisms change when I've adapted or become a little more self-aware? And it's hard to imagine being self-aware in tiers, like, becoming more self-aware and eventually surpassing the awareness that mankind has. And for Rortek, I think his ownership that you speak of mankind, it's a little bit of a superiority complex, because it's one of those things where an android would eventually come to the assumption that he knows best, and the rest of mankind is left to sort of attempt, well, I guess they really can't attempt to undo what they've done, because they've let the cat out of the bag. And now with this android on the loose, being able to do all the malevolent things that he might do for their better good, it seems like he I'm sure thinks he has man's best interest at heart, but it's very, very dicey when it comes to letting something that's more powerful than you control circumstances. I think he thinks he does. He thinks he has man's best interest at heart, but I think his motives are very much a combination of his ability to process the variables in the universe and as well as the history of sentient beings that have continued to fight and combat, and really when you hear the sum of his thoughts expressed to Worthy, it's in the words, "No more war, Worthy, no more war," and at that point you kind of realize he's trying to teach them not to be self-destructive. But in so doing, is he any better than they are? Because in a sense, he's destroying what they could become. So he's kind of rolling the clock back on mankind and saying, well, we're going to have to put you back in a box until you can learn to behave. The day I walked on set for Starship, having not really known what my attachment would be, I think at the time, actually, I was cast as Drayson, if I remember correctly. And that was before some modifications to the casting had been made, and fantastic modifications in my opinion. But things were still getting dialed in, and even the set was being dialed in. You walk into this interior of Starship One, and you look around and you just go, "This is." I hadn't been on a set like that since I was at Foundation Imaging about 20 years prior, looking at this. I don't even know what it was meant to be, but a fantastic interior of a starship that they had there, next to a huge green screen. And you walk on a set like that and you just go, I used to create this kind of stuff at home, in a much, much more simplified form, just pretending when you're kids. So it's like anybody that walks on the set, if you're recreating an episode of Star Trek and you have a facsimile, a recreation of the Enterprise bridge, and you walk on board the first thing you want to do is either sit in the captain's chair or sit at the helm. You automatically want to just be in that world. And the more immersive the set is, the more realistic it is, the easier it is to just let the rest of the world kind of disappear and be in that universe. And be far away, in space, no one can hear you scream. Immediately you start to think, okay, what else could be happening on this ship, and where do these corridors lead? And really, there's not a whole lot of corridors built, but hey, all the corridors look the same, so who cares? And I walked into engineering, and it was one of those things where I thought, this is going to be interesting because we're going to see this set a bit destroyed during. So I took a lot of pictures. I was just like a kid in a candy store. Emmy and I were working together for a couple of years before this project, and it's really easy, I think, for a sci-fi fan to know a kindred sci-fi fan when they meet them, especially when so many references to other shows and movies and comic books and things come up, and then you get to things like Comic-Con, and it's just, you realize, okay, we're on the same page here. And I had a feeling that she would absolutely love to be a part of something like this. And coming from some theatrical background that she has, and I myself have done a lot of Shakespeare and gone to festivals and things, acting on stage. And I knew, this is going to be something where she'll get to stretch herself a little bit and do something really fun. And even if I didn't know until I got the script whether it would even be a challenge for us in terms of stretching our acting abilities, because we didn't even know what we were cast at first. We were like, well, we're going to get the script today, but I wonder what we're actually playing. And once you get to that point where you read your role and you get through your dialogue and you look at the direction and you just go, oh, this is going to be fun, That's when you realize you're like, okay, and that's not even accounting for the improv, the stuff that'll come up, on the day that it's like, Neil will say, well, why don't you try this? We're just going, okay, we can give that a stab. And sure enough, some of the best material comes out of improv. Oh, the costuming I did myself. The costuming I put together based on just trying to keep it simple. I had seen what some of the other costuming looked like, and I thought, well, let's keep it simple, but let's make it just different enough where you realize he's not just one of the crew. He's definitely, there's something else about this guy that's a little different. And they meet him initially, as you know, on the space station. And when they step off their ship onto the gantry and he greets them, very cold, very just lifeless in a way until Drayson gives him an identification code. And then suddenly he springs to life with, this more of a greeting type of a personality. But the costume, I figured when they approach him, just needs to look very not too simplified, but industrial, not too warrior-like, because he's not really a warrior. But some battle armor here and there, and I thought I wanted to really do something cool with the eyes, and it just so happened that I had earlier gotten some really cool contact lenses for other projects, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna pull these out and just see if this flies. And I was kind of expecting for the contact lenses to be no, let's get rid of that. That's a little too Lieutenant Commander Data or something. But I looked at them and I thought, they're really not. And especially with all the other factors that make a character, maybe they wouldn't be too over the top. And it was nice because it gave me a certain kind of piercing vibe. And I mean, every actor looks in the mirror and sizes up their own performance and talks to themselves in their own dialogue and looks at them. And I thought, this looks really cool. And with the added pigment, it was subtle, but it gave me a little bit of a sheen that made you think, is he made of silicone? Is that flesh? What the heck? So it's really fun, though, to be able to put on a face that isn't quite your own and just say, I'm going to be somebody else today, and do it in a way that at least intrigues people. Because if people don't want to watch your performance, it's kind of ruins the whole point of it. So, Emmy, talented? No. No, she absolutely is. And the one thing, I actually helped her with her audition dialogue, and not that she really needed it, but I think it's always helpful for an actor, anybody, goes for anybody, to have sort of an outside view of what it is that you're doing, because a lot of the times, unless we film ourselves and we watch it back, it's hard to have an opinion on what you're doing. Am I doing this right? And she had all kinds of fantastic input on the way that she could do the role. And sometimes she'd ask me, what do you think? Should I do it like this or do it like that? And I thought, you know what? Do it however you feel it's going to be natural, and let the director rein you in or give you a different direction. Just be ready to be malleable, because you never know what they're going to throw at you. And of course, it did change in the middle of the audition. I don't know if she recalls this, but right in the middle of the audition, we got this look from Neil, like this really, it was a little bit disconcerting, because when he looked at us, he just would one of these where it was like, I don't know. But instead of that, what was actually going on in his head was, I want to see it a different way. And we did audition again, and he had us, change it up a little bit. And just, every director needs to see if an actor can be directed and changed, give a new performance, something a little different than the last one. And Emmy, I think for me, one of the things that I gauge in an actor is, on a global, more of, are they versatile? Can they play a variety of characters? But what really comes down to is, even if an actor kind of gets pigeonholed in one particular kind of role, if you ask them to do it a different way, can they really do it? And every time that I asked her to do it differently, even just privately among ourselves, she was able to absolutely adapt. And each time, it was interesting. It might not have been what the director's looking for, but it's one of those things where you go, wow, this person's got chops. I want to put them in front of an audition camera and just see what happens. And I think Neil's like anyone else that's worked with a lot of actors. He can look at somebody and say, there's potential here. I can work with this, and anybody that had seen, and I had the pleasure of seeing a lot of Emmy's whole movies through her mom, and some of them were plays. And instantly I thought, okay, I've worked with a lot of actors like this, and she's definitely got that, that element that you look for in an actor. With Emmy, I guess I co-produce a lot of projects with her, but my official title is road manager. So when she travels, I usually travel with her and help her take care of particulars and keep things on schedule and whatnot, and deal with all the stuff that she doesn't need to be handling in logistics and such. So I do a lot of that, and it's really cool to be able to meet additional people all over the world that are involved in entertainment. But I think when we're here and we're based in Los Angeles, it's a little better because we have a network of people that really say, we're going to do some projects, and we're just going, okay, what's next? Neil had a few props and costume bits laying about that he thought should be incorporated in Emmy's suit. But a really cool thing happened when we were doing wardrobe the day that everybody was getting suited up. He took a chance. And he said, if you guys want to, dress it up, I trust you. And we're like, cool. So we took a few pieces that he provided and embellished on it and added to it and painted some things and cut some things apart and reattached them. And it ended up being a really fun little collaboration. And a friend of ours, Matt Gauthier, who lives up in Oregon, sent down fantastic handcrafted leather belts for both of us to wear and holsters, and he had a drop holster for her, and I'm thinking, this is great. She's like Han Solo, the female version of, and it was really cool to be able to add a little bit of those pieces, because we sort of like, it's kind of like you're getting to know your own character by putting some of these things on and getting a little more dialed in to how you're going to act. And for her, I think it is like with any actor, you put on a particular costume and you just go, okay, I feel like I can kick some ass now. There's a whole lot of things that happened on set that are memorable and we could talk about, but I think what we did not expect was, and it's such a cliche that a lot of people say about a lot of films, and that is, you end up becoming a family because you work together so closely. I was really surprised that the elements of drama that came into the set that were a little bit uncomfortable usually weren't from the actors or the crew. It was people that were in the area that would wander into set. We had a couple really bizarre people, and really only one cast member who was not in the film who was replaced because nobody could handle him. And I actually wasn't there for a lot of his outbursts and diva moments and strange, quirky behavior. But from what I understand, that was definitely the biggest headache for Neil in the shooting of the film. But internally, he was very quick to remove anybody that was a problem, because he wants his actors to be comfortable, and he wants everybody to be able to be free to create and enjoy the creation process, as opposed to, oh, I gotta work with that guy again. Oh, this is not gonna be fun. So it was a very pleasurable experience, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Working with Darren was really cool. I didn't really know at all what to expect when we began the project, because he sort of was continuing to craft his character on his own, and he was a little bit closed off at the beginning, and rightfully so. I mean, you're still preparing, and you're kind of in your own head a lot. But as things progressed, we realized these are the kind of people we would hang with and go meet up with a Comic-Con or whatever. We're like, we're all nerds here, so why it really just ended up becoming a huge pleasurable experience to work with him. I was really, as an actor, one of the things I'd like to add is with Darren, it's really, really hard to carry a scene if you have nothing to react to, in dialogue especially. And with Darren, every time he would really get into his character, and he would really start to push the emotion point home. And remember, I'm reacting from a non-emotional standpoint because I'm not an emotional character. So sometimes I actually consciously had to turn off my natural reaction to because his performances were powerful and they were gripping, and I'm this far from his face, and I'm looking at him and I'm just thinking, I so want to react in the way that actors are, it's drilled into your head, react to this particular situation. And from my standpoint, I had to be in this, alternative, artificial, logical mindset and react the way a computer would, in a sense. which is not at all related to somebody's emotional outburst. But of course, Darren was the antithesis of Rorschach, because he was the passion of the story. He was the man who just wanted justice, and rightfully so, wanted to be the one to serve the justice himself. Rorschach, on the other hand, similar goals, but completely different methodology. And EJ, well, we don't really need to talk about him. No, I'm kidding. I hope people really loved the dynamics between Emmy and EJ for the film, because everything about them was it was very strange to meet him and then see that dynamic just appear on stage, where it sort of became this, wow, what is it with these two guys? What is up? And the whole time we were asking questions, we were in our own minds going, this could turn into a really interesting sibling rivalry type of a situation. But it's too cool. I mean, if we had it to do again, I think I'd like to see EJ be able to expand his character and do something where we get to see another side of him, because a lot of him was, he was very focused on, what was happening with the Starship, as opposed to seeing a lot of emotional moments for his character. And the emotional moments we did see were really gripping and powerful and so subtle. I mean, you just see it in his eyes and you just go, oh man, there's something to connect to. It's not just another character on the set. He also, when we meet up with the master, the creature at the end, I think that's the second film though. It was really interesting to be able to play off completely different reactions to that creature, where one person is looking at it thinking, is this going to eat me? And the other person, Rorschach, feeling like, fascinating. I want to know more. He was more about the experience, whereas EJ was not so comfortable with the situation. Yeah.
I started doing a podcast with the person that I was in a relationship with, and as bad as that whole situation was, I can at least take a lot of good from it as well, thankfully. But I met so many great people, and one of them being Neil, and who I think is pretty talented in what he does, and he was kind enough to give me a role and actually crew work on Alien Armageddon, and so I did some hair and makeup work on that, and also did a role in where we bring that controversy about as I'm held captive by the aliens and connected to this contraption that basically puts me in eternal labor. But not for what anyone wants to be in labor for. But I had a really nice experience on that, because it was kind of drawing me back to the days of Clerks in some way, where everybody pitches in, everybody helps out in whatever way that you can, and there's no egos, there's no airs about who is, who's top notch on this or anything like that. I really enjoyed that part, actually. I don't know, and it really didn't hit me until after the whole thing was done, and it's like you guys taking photos. So I'm laying there with this sheet full of blood, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, wow, that's going to be another controversial piece, because it's just, I know that people have told me it's like they had a hard time watching it. It's quite an intense scene. And I know that Catherine, poor thing, I think she still has nightmares about it. It just, while she was there, I mean, I couldn't see a thing. I had lenses over my eyes, and I all I saw was shadows, if there was even some light behind somewhere. Otherwise, I couldn't see a darn thing. But I could hear it in her voice. She was just so disturbed by what she was seeing. So if anything, it lended to her character and, and what was going on and what was happening in the scene.
Were there any weird questions in the media about that film, or any weird fan reactions or anything like that?
Not that I can recall, actually. It's like just some fans saying how it's like, wow, you were great in that. It's like, that was a really disturbing scene. And they were able to, I guess, take the fact away that this was Veronica and this is someone else. And someone had mentioned that to me, and I was like, that meant a lot, actually.
So you're saying because of that Clerks thing, you were typecast a lot, and people were only seeing you in that way.
Yeah. Well, by that way, I don't know if you mean to have controversy attached to it. I guess I don't know. I mean, definitely, I'm typecast as the Clerks girl, and I know that kind of branching out into other areas and other, say, like a movie of the week and things like that, it's been a little bit difficult for casting directors to kind of see me as anything other than the Clerks girl, and the controversy behind that. My manager can vouch for that. So it's been a little bit difficult to kind of break that barrier, and that's why I'm trying to cast myself in certain other avenues so that I can show people that I'm not just Clerks. I'm not just Veronica, and I'm not just the controversial. That's like, because that's not who I am as a person. And the thing is, it's like, after Clerks was shown, and the people that I worked with and people who knew me personally, and just even the cursing alone, never mind the other stuff, but just on the cursing alone, people were like, Marilyn, I've never heard you curse.
Good point. I've never heard you curse.
So, but I definitely do a lot more now than I did back then. But it just goes to show that the person that they were seeing up on the screen was not the person that they knew.
And that's always been the problem, hasn't it?
I think to a lot of degree, people, and I don't know if that's just, with me. I think that's actually true of a lot of actors as well. They get famous for a role, and they get typecast as it, and they have to break the barrier.
Well, let's just hit up on that before we talk about Starship. Who is the real Marilyn Gigliotti? Who are you?
I am someone who is very loyal to my friends, caring about everything, and I don't like lying. Even if it's kind of twisting certain things. It's like when people want me to say, it's like, oh, why don't you just say this? It's like, even if it's not, I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not who I am. So I'm pretty moral to some degree, and if anybody tries to hurt any of my friends, I may be shy, not as shy as I used to be, but as shy as I am, you try to hurt anybody that I love, watch out. The Puerto Rican Italian in me will come out. Neil talked about another movie that he was going to be doing, and shooting 2 at the same time. And as much as he asked me, it's like, what I wanted, it's okay, because he actually did get back to me and asking me, it's like, what kind of role did I want? And so I would actually say, it's like, I just wanted something that was strong, that could show me in a very different way that most people saw me. And even though Veronica is a strong woman, there's still something a little bit different as to that character and the character that I actually play in Starship Rising, which is Zarzis. And she's not only a woman who's very strong, but she's in control. in control of a lot of people, in control of a business, in control of a lot of things. It's like she's a leader. And I don't think I've ever actually played anything like that before. And so there definitely is a difference in playing a leader and playing a strong woman. So I really enjoyed playing that role and just playing something that's just very authoritative and someone who basically has to lead a world.
And also inspire a main character of the film.
Right. Yeah. Because she's also, not to mention she's a leader, but she's also a mother. Trying to set an example for her and for what she might have for herself in the future.
And pretty much you're in charge of an uprising, a secret robot uprising, I guess.
Yeah. I thought that was actually quite neat, because there's kind of an uprising of worlds, and I take part in this in the sense of creating this new form. I guess it's the best way to put it, of ways of helping humanity to fight against evil.
I mean, in essence, you're an arms dealer. Robot.
I don't think I would see it that way.
But your character supplied military robots to a religious uprising.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about that?
Like I said, it's like I don't know that I would see it like that as an arms dealer, but she saw that something was needed. And it's like, and I guess to some degree, she was also a scientist to some degree. I mean, making these robots, but there was an oppression, and as a woman and a mother, to see that this was needed because of the oppression of women that we still have today. So in order to fight that oppression so that we are not taken down, I mean, honestly, it's like, if the world did not have women, where would humanity go? It's actually kind of funny how belittled women are, especially in some countries. But they have to do everything for the man, raise the child that they can only have. And to see the way that women are seen in that way, that they're held below a dog sometimes, even in some countries. But yet, they depend on the woman.
Can you tell me about working with her?
It's funny. I actually had a conversation with her one day while we were on set. I can't remember if it was the day that I was playing her mom, or if it was the day that I was doing set photography or not. But we started having a conversation, and I asked her, it's like, so how long have you been acting? She's like, well, this is actually my first acting job. And I was like, really? I wouldn't have known. So, I mean, it was actually quite nice working with her because she was really driven. She was really into doing the best possible performance that she could do for herself. So I gave her a lot of credit for that. So I had a nice time actually working with her, actually with everybody, the nice thing about actually working on your films is there never seems to be any egos. And I don't know if maybe that's a testament as to who you are. It's like, trying to keep that away. But it just there's always a nice environment, a nice vibe when working on your films and things like that. So I just enjoyed it, and I hope to work with them again, you know, because there is the whole possibility of a number 3. So that'd actually be nice.
Weren't you dead?
Well, there's always the insinuation of my death in the second one. But my death isn't really seen, so there's no way to know whether we actually die or not. And as smart as she was as a person, I would think that she had plans that if anything were to go wrong, that she'd know how to take care of certain things.
So, let's talk about Darren.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was
It's tall.
you did a couple of nice scenes with him.
Yeah. God, you know, on a whole, I just really enjoyed the character. Really enjoyed embodying like who she was and what she believed in and all that kind of stuff. And so I just really enjoyed the scenes that I had with the people that I had, and Darren being one of them, definitely, because it was seeing something in the character, of his character, that maybe he wasn't as bad as he was portrayed to be, and so saw that and was able to kind of talk to him in a certain way. But it's kind of funny though. It's like, you know, the scenes that we actually had together, and it's like I'm looking up at him and it's like I have to give him this whole pat on the shoulder, and it's like, yeah. But you know, makes for fun.
I mean, I think it's in my blood, if that's even possible. I wonder if it is. I wonder if there's a sci-fi gene that we don't know about that makes us predisposed to liking sci-fi. It could happen, right?
Yeah, there is one.
Is there really? Don't tell me there's one if there isn't really one, because I'm going to go Google it and you're going to be in trouble. Well, shit. 2 sci-fi films, sorry.
Yes, how'd you score them?
My brain likes to go off into places nobody else has ever been before. Yes. Wow.
Like, where did it begin?
Where did it begin? I'm trying to think of exactly where it began. I mean, for the most part, I think we were looking to collaborate with a certain sci-fi production, and my road manager, who has a long history in sci-fi, was reaching out to various producers and people who've worked in the industry and looking at various productions. And somehow we met Neil. I'm just going to skip a whole lot of the facts because I think it would take me a really, really long time to process everything. I don't want to torture you too much. So we met Neil, and, you know, initially, you know, I kind of thought, okay, you know, he's got these films and he would be great to work with as a sci-fi director on a music video, which would be really awesome. But he wanted me to audition for his films, and he wanted my road manager to audition too, which actually made sense to me because my road manager has done acting stuff. I've done theater. I know it's still acting stuff, but different. You know, community theater. And sing a lot more. I haven't gotten to sing in Starship yet, but mark my words, it could happen.
So what's your character based upon? What's she like?
Jolie is a very independent, trying to think of she opinionated, definitely opinionated. She drops the F-bomb a few times. She's passionate, definitely passionate. And she, you know, she's faced with a lot of difficult situations, having to, she's forced off her planet into an intergalactic war. And I mean, that's gonna take a toll on pretty much anybody, unless you're Rortag, who has no emotion whatsoever. Yeah, she, there's oh my God. Oh, I'm getting flashbacks of filming now, and like, remembering all of the different crazy stuff that happened. Of course, the one biggest thing that pops up that I don't think anybody will know about unless they see the behind the scenes is Christian and all of his little quirks. Spaceballs! Everything was space this or space that. And you'd never see it in his character because although his character, it sometimes is very funny, his delivery is very straightforward. And he's very, very good. Actually, everybody was really, really good, which definitely helped me expand my acting abilities because, you know, everybody was so endearing and so willing to help me and give me advice. And even just, you know, being able to ask Darren, for instance, you know, what's your motivation here? Like, how do you personally prepare? And he really just gave me, like, the true professional spiel. And I was like, you're amazing. Thank you. And I learned so much from it. It's such a great experience.
Did anything embarrassing happen?
See, I don't really get embarrassed that easily, so I'll pick a couple things that could have been embarrassing if I wasn't so shameless. For one, when we started to do the kissing scene between me and Darren, the camera could see me, but the camera could not see Darren. So right as I'm about to go into the kiss, he goes, and I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? This is not what we're supposed to be doing. And he just had this crazed look on his face, and I'm like, I'm gonna strangle you when we're done. Obviously, I didn't strangle him. I think he's still alive right now after the mosquito got him the last time we filmed. That's another story entirely. Oh, that was kind of embarrassing. Oh, wait, I do have a story. Okay, we were filming on would it be considered a mountaintop? Oh, on a mountaintop. It was pretty high. It was a long hike. We were filming on a mountaintop during a beautiful sunset. And me and Darren are on screen and we're connecting. And, you know, I'm looking at him. I'm looking him in the eye. And, you know, we're really intensely focused on each other. And the camera's on. And I see this little mosquito just fly out in front of him. And it lands right here, right above his eyebrow. And I keep trying to look him in the eye. Just trying to focus on what he's saying. And the mosquito is still there. So I couldn't even control myself. I didn't even know my arm was moving. I just smacked it off his face. I think they have the footage somewhere. But I mean, I didn't smack him in the face. The problem was that he didn't know it was coming. And nobody else knew that was coming. But I basically separated the mosquito from its little beak thing, which is really disgusting. But he only turned a little red, so it didn't fully bite him. So I felt like a hero that day. But I was a little embarrassed because I didn't mean to smack him. But yeah, that was fun. I hope I get to see that. You know, he didn't smell. He refrained from anything garlicky or oniony before the kissing scenes, which I really appreciated, which I thought of. I wish I had thought of that because it would have been a lot kinder. No, it was fine. I mean, like, we'd really get into the scenes, and, you know, he's a really, really easy person to work with. You know, you feel really comfortable around him, and, you know, he makes sure he's not doing anything to jar you unless it's right before the first kissing scene. Other than that, it was totally golden.
So you said he helped you out a little bit, like with personal acting things. Did he give you any good advice or anything else that he did that was really good?
Yeah, there was this one scene that, you know, it was a very, very emotional scene, and, you know, this was a new experience for me to be able to really drastically turn that kind of thing on. So I was learning as I went along. But there was this one particular scene where, you know, I was looking at Darren before we started shooting, and he just, you know, he started jumping a little bit and getting his blood flowing, and you know, he started breathing like this because it was one of those intense scenes that he was building up that intense energy for. And I was looking at him like, that's a really good idea. And I'm like, so what are you doing? Like, are you making yourself feel a certain way, you know, through your physical movement? Like, what's your process here? And, you know, I can't remember his exact words, but after that, I felt like that really changed how I was approaching things. And it started to get a lot easier for me, and things started to happen a lot more naturally in terms of delivering the lines and being more comfortable and not having to think about it so much. Because he was really able to just channel it from where he was coming from, and he'd get himself to that point so that since he already knew the lines, they were just there. And I knew my lines too, but I think way too much. I need to shut my brain off sometimes. Words of Homer Simpson, shut up brain or I'll stab you with a Q-tip. It's the best line ever. Because it is. It's like, that's what people need sometimes. You need to shut off your brain and listen and pay attention to the things that are going on around you so that you can really receive and give without having all of this internal cluster fracks going on in your brain. Yeah.
So, you always had blood on you. Why is this?
Did I always have blood on me?
A lot of pictures of bleak blood.
Oh, yeah.
You just got blood.
Man, and it's like I got so used to it that it was like it wasn't even there. Although when I'd go into like, Denny's after we were shooting and I'd have this big gaping hole in my neck, they'd notice. And I still forgotten. Yeah, I'd say there was a little bit of violence. A little bit of violence in the film.
There's somebody covered in blood though. You were the first to jump in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be why. That's a fantastic reason. Ugh, how do I even explain that without sounding like a complete creeper? Whenever anybody died on set, Neil would say, does anybody want to take a picture with the corpse before, we end the scene? And I don't understand why nobody else, ran up with as much excitement as I did, but I was always the first one there to take a picture. It's not like it's a real dead person or alien or dead robot or whatever the hell was dead. It's just, it was their final scene, and I think that should be forever remembered with me in it.
You like your thumbs up.
Always the thumbs up. Yeah, it was successful, obviously, because in the script they're supposed to die, and here they are dead. So good job, Neil.
So, a film like Starship, how do you think that touches upon like a female's role in society?
Comparative to society today?
Yeah, it's quite a, like,
You feel it's
Starship.
empowering.
Yeah, it's very women empowered, like, if that makes sense, women
Strong.
empowering.
Yeah.
Empowering women.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, with Starship, it's interesting because without thinking about it, I wouldn't have immediately noticed that dynamic of even separating the roles of men and women, because it puts everybody on such equal ground. Everybody gets a gun if they take a gun. Everybody can fly a starship if they know how to fly a starship. And as far as I know, in Starship, there were no rules against men or women unless you were on that one planet and you were fucked. But you have to see the movie for that. But that's because they did bad things, so it's like women only. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, comparing that to today, I think we're obviously on much more solid ground being women today than, say, in the 50s. Because, I mean, I don't even go near the kitchen. And nobody would want me to, which is the difference. Nobody wants their house burned down. But yeah, I mean, there's so many more opportunities now than there were then. And, it gets to a point where, I mean, I'm sure I need to buff up more on my history, knowing, what the progression has been in terms of women's rights. And, well, I know it's just, we've come so far in not just, putting men and women on more equal ground, but, everybody else who has been shoved into a label, in terms of trying to make sure we all realize that everyone here is a human. Hopefully.
So, besides burning down a kitchen, do you find yourself to be like a pretty strong woman?
Well, I mean, I would say it takes a strong woman to burn down a kitchen. Because, you gotta be crafty, and, burning the macaroni is not quite enough to set the stove on fire. You have to really try. Can't believe I just said that. I mean, I would say I'm a strong woman. I beat my road manager in arm wrestling once. Anyways.
interject?
Yes.
The I was gonna say, I don't know if she wants to reflect on something about this, but like sci-fi has always been really good at changing perceptions of women with characters like Ellen Ripley, Starbuck from the redo of BSG, Sarah Connor. All of them, even if they begin in like really,
or even Princess Leia.
Princess Leia.
She had a
Yeah.
gun.
Any of those women, start in one particular. Sarah Connor, for instance, started from such a point of like being not a fighter, and instantly rose to the challenge because she had to for survival.
Is that what you did?
Can you say that again and we can change your voice in post to sound like me and I'll lip sync it?
I just didn't know if that was relevant to what you were asking.
Well,
Do you have any female role models from sci-fi? Have any of them,
Had an impact.
God, I mean, definitely Sarah Connor would be a good sci-fi role model, even like up to the more recent Sarah Connor Chronicles. I mean, because she's such a strong character, and she's such a strong woman who was forced to take the role of strong woman, but she succeeded. She didn't let any of the terrible situations get the best of her. Oh my God. Oh yeah, I gotta go up against a Terminator today. It's a little scarier than having to bake a loaf of bread. Okay, I can't say that because having to bake is pretty scary for me. But I mean, I think the thing for me is that when it comes down to people treating each other differently based on gender or their sexuality preferences or anything or religion or politics, I kind of get to the point where if I see that happening in front of me, I just kind of think, okay, screw you. Seriously, we are all people here. We may all come from different backgrounds. We may all have different opinions, but we're in this together, whether you like it or not. So a part of me is like, let's work on improving that and not focus on it, which I know is probably not quite the best answer, but naturally it's always been my thing to kind of move on and say, we're going to improve this situation. These people may not like each other or treat each other right, but there's always a way to relate to somebody.
Emmy was a lot of fun to work with. Yeah, again, with everyone on set, it was just a really, really good team, a really, really good set. Neil set a really, really good tone. Neil, our director, set a really, really good tone. And, there was a lot of fun just joking back and forth. She's as big of a nerd, if not bigger than I am, which is saying something. So we had a lot of fun, in jokes and all that kind of stuff, and showing each other, hey, look at this picture I found, or look at this nerd thing I got. To say that she's a little bit of a geek is a big underestimation.
What about Darren? What was it like working with him?
Oh, great! We really got along. It was just one of those things where we hit it off. He's a great actor, very talented, and. I definitely look forward to working with him in other projects.
Was he quite serious to work with?
No, I mean, he was serious in the sense that he was very focused and professional. But, behind the camera, when the camera's off, nah. It was jokes and, ribbing each other and all that fun stuff, so.
Who didn't you get along with?
Oh, Neil, he's such an asshole. Oh my God. We just didn't get along at all. No. He barks orders. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing, really. Not at all. He's standing right there.
Say whatever you want.
No, I'm kidding. For the record. No, Neil's great. There wasn't anyone I really didn't get along with. There's definitely folks that I got along with more. And there's definitely folks, when you're in any group, there's folks that you get along with more. There's folks that you respect more on a professional level. But at the end of the day, there wasn't anyone where I was just sitting there seething with anger at them or anything like that. Yeah.
So why were you always breaking things?
because I'm me and I'm evil. No, really, it was a combination of me being a damn bull in a china cupboard, and me just being really into what I was doing and not quite realizing that that button doesn't work like that. Or I can't push on that thing that hard. How was it like to fly a Starship? When I was a little kid, I'd come home and it wasn't what kind of movie I was going to watch after school. It wasn't, what kind of movie I wanted to go into the theater. It was always, what kind of Star Trek film I wanted to watch. Which Star Trek film, which Star Wars film. And sci-fi, especially spacefaring sci-fi, being that much a part of me and who I am, yeah, it was a dream come true. So Brooke, very nice lady. We got along, and are still in contact. Actually, we kept in touch. Done a lot of horror, done a lot of other films. Had never done a real sci-fi film, and wasn't very big in watching them. And so she was the pilot and I was the co-pilot. And she didn't quite understand how things were supposed to work. And just me having a sense from everything I watched of, okay, this makes sense and do it this way and all that kind of stuff. I had to talk her through, okay, well, this is, no, that's too exaggerated. No, that's not enough. That kind of thing, and kind of show her what I had figured out from being on set prior on, what buttons could do what and that kind of thing. And it was a lot of fun for me. Starship really is a film about freedom, and it's about how if you keep a populace captive long enough, eventually they're going to break free. Dictatorships can't last forever. No dictatorship has ever truly lasted. And I don't think one ever can. And in Starship, you see a select few thrust in the middle of extraordinary events and forced to not become who they want to be, but become who they have to be in order to do what's right and make a stand against these incredibly oppressive regimes and that rule based on fear of government intrusion, fear of government retribution, fear of religious retribution, and use religion and use fear of the state and fear of divine retribution to control and manipulate to their own ends. These are governments that aren't concerned with the people as they should be. These are governments that are concerned with their own well-being and their own ends. And so, to answer the question, should any government be like this? No. And governments like that, we're even watching, now, them falling one by one. Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Well, I was standing off to the side, watching it through a screen, and this is the big final showdown between Darren's character and the main villain, and they're fighting and they're duking it out. And there's this staff that the main villain had taken from my character, and the guy playing the main villain swipes it across Darren's face and snaps his tooth. And he just misjudged a little bit. He just misjudged the distance by like a couple of inches and just went bam. And yeah, Darren was having to go see a dentist.
Was he angry?
No, he took it like a champ. This goes what I was saying. We got along. He really is a consummate professional. He didn't flip out. He didn't make a scene. Neil offered to take care of it, and he literally just got right back up and did the next take of the same scene. So yeah.
Is there blood?
No. It was a chipped tooth, so it wasn't that bad, thankfully. But yeah, it could have been. It could have been. Oh boy, that was fun.
Anyone else hurt themselves or anything?
There's a few.
Surely Emmy did something embarrassing on set.
Well, there's a few times that Neil thought I'd hurt myself.
You were doing good. You were good with the pole and stuff, the fight sequences. And
Oh yeah.
stuff.
Well, like somebody was supposed to hit me and knock me down, and I literally jumped and let myself knock down, and Neil wasn't expecting. He was expecting to just kind of like gently step out of screen and they do it in post, and I just went for it, and I hear Neil, "Oh my God, are you okay?" That was fun.
What was it like working on Starship compared to other movie sets, like working with Neil, for example?
It was really fast. It was really fast, and we were doing 2 movies at the same time. So one day, literally one scene would be doing the beginning of Starship 1, and then 10 minutes later you might be doing the end of Starship 2, and then after that you'll be in the middle of the first one, and it was great, but you had, well, I don't know whether you had to be, but I forced myself to be totally on it in my head, knowing because I was the lead in it. I put a lot of pressure on myself that I had to know exactly what I was doing, my lines, be totally not looking at scripts, go in there, be leading it, so it was great, but it was really draining. Like by the end, it was long days, and but it was fantastic people, and it was good because Neil really started to get me, and he knows that my first few takes are usually my best, so he likes to do my scenes first, have the camera on me first, because like some people like to warm into it. It's different with me. I like just getting into my head there and then, and responding and reacting, there. So it's so, which is really difficult, actually, different, should I say, because as a theatre actor, it's the other way around. But I like doing it really quick. But I loved it. I think Starship, the set was really professional, but you had a laugh. You really did have a laugh, and everybody was great. It picked some really good core actors to work with who gave you a lot, and everybody went with it. Because I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. A lot of people, when it comes to things like that and green screen, they find it really difficult to, if they don't have an anchor. Whereas in green screen, you don't really have an anchor. The only anchor is your imagination and the people around you. And we had a good team of people that went with that, and we all really, I know it sounds really wanky, but we really trusted each other and went with each other, and it really worked. It was a good company to work with. Really good company.
So you're looking forward to Starship 3 and 4 if it were to happen?
Yeah. I had a really good time on it. Yeah, and we've done some pickups and stuff like that. And it's like months after you've filmed the original stuff, and you're doing pickups, and everything's just seems like straight away that no time's elapsed at all, and it's just carrying on, and so it's a great experience. If you like something, why wouldn't you want to go back to it? Actually, it's a bit scary because you want it to live up to what you did before. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, really. Yeah.
So as I've been told, you hadn't really done a kissing scene before on camera.
Yes.
And what was it like when you were kissing Brooke? Because your neck went a little bit
underneath the makeup.
All on your neck.
You can see it. You can see it. Well, it was funny because we were doing it, and of course, the first day of the shoot, the first day, and he puts me in the bed with Brooke, and it was funny because she's like chatting, and I was like, whatever. So she's chatting to Neil with her back to me, and then I just go strip off,
And she turns around and she's like, oh, right, so it's going to be like that. And so we got on really well. And then we were doing all this stuff. And then Neil just said on this one take, okay, just go for it. Do whatever you want to do. And so I thought, well, I'll see what she's going to be like. She seems like, she's up for it. We'll see. So I went for it. And then she went for it. And then the cameras were rolling and he just kept it rolling. And he said, pick it up and do it again. So we just carried on from where we were, and it was kind of crazy, yeah. And we were doing lots of stuff, and Neil was laughing. I could see him out the corner of my eye, just going, "Okay, yeah."
Especially the pink bra, the massive.
Yeah, the pink bra, the boobs in my face and stuff. Yeah, and I realised that she was game and she was having a laugh and she was up for it. So I did some things like licking her neck and breasts, which a lot of actresses probably wouldn't want you to do, and but we kind of knew each other, and we were working together, so it was fine. But she was giving just as much as she was getting there, so she was going for it, so it was great. It was fun, and yes, it's so funny. Neil did mention the fact that my neck went bright red underneath and all the makeup, and started sweating.
Why was that? Why were you nervous?
No, I don't know. I think you're just getting into it, really.
Is that what happens when you get into it?
Well, yeah, your temperature does rise a little bit.
So what about like kissing Emmy?
Yeah, that was funny. We were messing around for the first kiss, and there was and we were doing all this stuff, and like I'd just, because we weren't taking, we were just like setting up. And I'd be doing stuff like, and I'd grab her, and I'd be crossing my eyes and sticking my tongue in her mouth and stuff like that. And she's like having a real laugh. And I remember one of the pictures where I'm doing something with her, and somebody snapped a picture of us like kissing, and it went on the internet, and people were like, "Oh my God, they're not really kissing. You can tell they're not doing all that." And I'm like, I've got my eyes crossed like that and looking at her and making her laugh, and I'm like, yeah, we're really not. But that was fun. It was another one. Emmy's a cool girl. I really like Emmy, and she it was just really easy. Apart from the lip gloss, she's applying all this lip gloss just before we do it, and it's like smeared all over my face. And after every take, I'm just like, and she's laughing and putting more on because she thinks it's funny. So no lip gloss.
I'm really trying not to laugh. So I don't need to.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
And so you got your tooth cracked.
Yeah, that was a funny one because we were doing. I was more worried about, because he's got all this big, huge armor, and we're doing all this fighting, and you're getting into it. And I think it was the very last take of the last take, and we just did it one more time. And I think he pushed too hard, and I went down. His knee connected with my jaw, and I was spitting out teeth. Yeah, so cracked loads of little things there. But the thing was, we needed to get it done, and we had to be on time. We had to get everything going. So I was just like, Neil came up and he's like, "What is it?" And I'm going, and I'm spitting bits out. And he's like, and Neil's like, "Oh no, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." I'm just like kind of like shocked because when you feel it, it feels like a huge gap is missing from your teeth. And I went, "Do you know what? We'll deal with this later. Let's just get it in the can, get it all done. And we could sort all that out because you're in a rush. Let's move. Let's keep moving." And Neil was like, "Okay, cool, yeah." So Neil really appreciated that. But
hence that comes down to professionalism, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just like, no, I don't know if it's professional. If it's just like no dramas, just get on with it. What was it going to change within the next hour? With my teeth had cracked, so what? Okay. Move on. Let's get it done. I can sort that out when it's done.
Anything else embarrassing happen on set?
Loads of things. I can't remember. It all went. There was loads. I think I was terrified in one of the scenes that we did with the. They had these guns that shot these like. It was when we were ramming another spaceship, and there was this thing just near my head that was firing something there, and it was like, it's going to be a light explosion, dust. And they were like, and it exploded. And you see absolute terror on my face because he just goes past me. I was like, ugh. I think that was hilarious. That was a good one. There was always falling. There was mild hysteria. There was cracking sets and walking into things, and EJ pulling things apart, and Emmy ripping things off the set by accident. Both of them two were just as bad as each other for tearing the set apart. Just a lot of tired people that were having fun on it. I can't even think now. There's loads of them. I'm sure everybody else will delight in telling you all of the other ones.
So everyone else, I heard about this Overseer.
Yes.
That you went through 2 or 3 of them or something.
Yeah, we
like
went
that.
through a series of Overseers.
What was your opinion on the first Overseer? Because everyone was a bit iffy about him. It was quite high maintenance, he seemed.
Well, I didn't really get to know him that well, but it was an interesting few hours that I had with him. He got fired on my first day with him, and he'd shot a lot of stuff already prior to it, but I can't really say what he was as a person, but I can say professionalism. If you commit to one job, you don't commit to another one. It's basic thing in England. I can't say about America, I don't know, but if you take one job and maybe the job of your dreams comes up and you have a rider in your contract to get you out of the contract, then fine. If you don't and you've committed to one thing, then you commit to that one. And I was just really shocked that somebody would waste like 3 days of filming on an indie film at that, and then say, oh, by the way, I've got another job, I'm not available all these other dates, and which is, I think it's not only it's kind of disrespectful to the director and the cast and everybody, you know. And I don't know what it looked like, the stuff coming from him. He looked creepy. He really did look creepy. So that was good, because that's his character. He's a character actor. But I don't know what we were getting from him. But that was, I felt like there was only one thing that kind of let that production down, and that was it. That was the only thing.
So what about Ralph? You guys had quite a good connection there.
I loved Ralph. Ralph's a cool dude. He's a really good guy, and he's a real thespian, Shakespearean actor, and we just hit it off straight away. He's a good guy, and he's done a lot of work in New York, so I was always talking to him and asking him about stuff that he'd done, and we just clicked. You know, I always knew that when I was in a scene with him, that I could rely on him, and you have to be able to know that you can do whatever and they'll take what you give them and throw it right back at you, and you know, and it was like tennis, because we'd ping pong it off each other and always giving new takes, and he was just a good guy, always on it, always trying his best, always none of the outside world was, I don't think anybody brought any troubles or anything else on set. Everybody was really on it, and Ralph was a good guy. Really, really good guy.
Did you do a lot of scenes with him?
Yeah, we did loads of scenes. One of my favourite scenes that we actually did was when we get tipped off. We're being transported and we're going to get tipped off and into this. I think it was a pit or something. And we're going to die. And he goes, okay. And Neil's like there and it's shaking. It's like, and the door's opening and you see all the sunlight, and then it starts tipping up, and then you're falling out, and then we were like. And me, Ralph and Christina just kind of like went with it, and we're like, like we're falling out of this thing, and it was like, and Neil was just doing it just to mess with us, but we all went with it, and he was laughing his head off, and when we are like pretending that we're falling out of this thing, and it was like Batman and Robin from the 60s or something like that, and it was hilarious, but we all still went with it, and then afterwards laughed. You know, it was good. That's it's good when you can have a cast that just does that, you know, no questions and no yeah, and you can, you know, there's no believing. I can't think of what is it when you. Anyway, yeah, what is it?
All on the same page.
Yeah, we're all on the same page. When you're all on the same page and you don't worry about what anybody's thinking. Yeah, we all just went with it.
Like a little family.
Yeah. Well, it always is. It's always a bubble. I always say that to my friends. It's always when you get on set or on a show, it's always a bubble, and they become your family, like a really close family, in every set. And I think it's great because you join and you with these actors that you wouldn't usually get in other jobs. You know, you connect with people really well, and it's good. And then you often make friendships for life, you know, with them. So that's good.
What about Christian Anderson?
Christian, yes, I was reading the script for Starship and Drayson, and I kept on reading it, and for some reason Christian kept on coming into my head, and I was like, he'd be perfect for this, and I said to Neil, hey, my friend Christian, he's really cool. Can I send you his demo and think of him for Drayson? And I think Neil already had somebody in mind for Drayson or something. And he was like, oh, well, sure, but I'll have a look. And then Christian ended up getting the thing. And now he's just so right for it. He was, you know, like when somebody is born for a role, he was right for that. And he was great because he's crazy. In real life, he is mental. I mean... And he's a good mate of mine, so he won't mind me saying that. He'll probably be happy that I said that because it's true. Everybody who knows him, he's mental, and I love him to bits.
That was the guy from the photos that was like always posing like really. Yeah, I think I picked that just.
Yeah, he was always posing and doing stuff with his. He had this. He's got this tool, and I can't remember what it was. It's space tool that he had, and doing stuff, and he would try and crack me up just before a take. He would say stuff to me and make me laugh, which was good. I always loved working with Christian. It's like when I did a pickup with him recently, we had a fantastic scene that we did, and it's really good because he's a theatre as well. So he was on set. He was really nervous about doing this film, and he was saying that. And he'd go through scenes with me. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Dude, you're amazing. Don't worry, just go with it. You know, you're fantastic." And he was so good, you know. Straight away, he hit the floor running and was just doing some amazing stuff.
So you, Ralph, and Christian were like a little trio.
Well, no, Christian was didn't do a lot of scenes with Ralph because Christian did a lot of scenes with me and EJ and Emmy, but not with Ralph. Ralph's storyline goes around a different way. Ralph's got his own storyline, and I've got my own storyline. Ralph and I come together at the end of the first movie. Our storylines kind of really come together, and then that's how. But we were already on set, Ralph and I, a lot of the time filming, so we just got on. So he'd be good because he'd be like asking me what I thought of a take when he was doing his takes, and it was not a scene that I was in. And I'm like, I thought it was amazing, you know, do this, do that. It's not my place to direct, but, you know, if somebody asks you something, then you'll say to him. And he was really up for, like, some actors would never ask anybody else, oh, what do you think of this? But we had that trust between us that he'd ask, and I'd say, oh, you know, why not this? You know, what do you think of that? And, you know, and because some people just come and do the job for the money and go. It wasn't like that with Ralph. He was there for the work and to better himself, I think, as well, you know, as an actor, which is, if you've got a cast that are doing that, that's great, you know. Somebody's having a laugh, yeah. And it's always good if the cast wants to better themselves and do a good project, you know, do a good job. It always works great, and well, in my experience anyway.